G'day so-and-sos and welcome to my sewing room. My name is Kathy and this is Lucifer, and in today's video we are going to show you a different method of making a boxy bag. Now, the traditional way of making these, you end up with raw edges on the inside that you then have to put bias tape over. This is a slightly different way of doing it so that you don't need to include that step. We actually cover up all the raw edges and flip it inside out. So when you make this, I really recommend that you follow along with my measurements and the different type of interfacings that I use to make it a little bit easier, and just don't try and go any smaller than this with this method because it'll just be too much of a pain in the butt. All right, we're ready to get cracking, so let's do it. Let's have a look at what we need for today. So not too much today, just the basics. Cutting mat, ruler, rotary cutter, fabric scissors, not so good scissors that I'll use for my interfacing and tape, snippers, marking tool, little purple thing, 12-inch zipper tape, number 5 zipper head, and some clips. Now, while we're at it, if you like this style of pouch as well, which is the magic pouch, I have a tutorial for that one up as well on my page, so make sure you subscribe. Now let's have a look at our fabric, interfacing and measurements. Now, as always, measurements and everything will be in the description box, but we'll go over it briefly and I will pop it up on the screen. So for my exterior pieces, my pieces are 8 by 11 and I've interfaced that with a medium weight iron-on fusible fleece. And then this bit is going to be our connector tabs. It is 8 by 3 inches and I've interfaced that with a light iron-on interfacing, and that fabric is from Ella Jewel. And then I have my lining pieces and they're the same size. They are 8 by 11 and I've used light iron-on interfacing for those. And of course I have 2 exterior and 2 lining. And then I have some zipper tape, and my zipper tape is 12 inches long with a number 5 zipper head on there. And I've gone ahead and stitched down the ends of that so my zipper head doesn't come flying off when I'm sewing, because that would suck. Now let's look at getting the first part of the zipper attached. So I've got my clips, 1 exterior, 1 lining, and my zipper tape. Going to take my exterior piece, and it's laying right side up in front of me, grab my zipper tape, and I'm going to place it right sides together with that exterior piece with about 1/2 inch hanging over each side. So my zipper teeth are against my fabric, and the top edge of my zipper tape is lining up with the top edge of my fabric. And I'll show you a bit closer in case that doesn't make sense to you. So just like that. Then I'm going to take my lining piece and I'm going to place it right sides together. So pretty side to pretty side on top of that, and line up its top edge with that zipper tape and just shift my clips along so that I have a zipper tape sandwich. Now we're going to take that over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch that down. And while we're there, we'll then flip it open, press it and top stitch it, but I'll show you at the machine. So I've got my zipper foot on and my stitch length is around 3.5 and I'm about 1/4 inch seam allowance. My zipper head is right there, so I'm going to keep my fingers on it. And I'll move it down out of the way a little bit further. And then I want to be able to move it all the way back up. So I'm using these fingers to feel where that zipper tape is. And I'll stop there, needle down, and move that zipper head back up so my zipper tape is closed and my teeth are laying nice and straight. So hopefully that will lessen the chance of getting a wavy, well it'll lessen the chance of getting a wavy zipper. All the way down and back stitch at the end. Now, like I said, while we're here, we're going to open up our work And then give that a little press. Use your iron if you want to. I'm just going to use my little roller. And then we will top stitch that down. So same thing, start up here. Before I start, I'll lengthen my stitch length. I'll get that zipper tab head thing out of the way. Lengthen my stitch length to around 4.5, and I'm going to line up the side of my foot with the edge of that fabric. Now think about what colour thread you want to use with your project. You can use something that's sort of coordinating, like I'm using a purple, or you can use something contrasting if you really want it to stand out. You can have a lot of fun and lots of different type of looks with the colour thread that you top stitch with. All the way down to the end, little back stitch, cool bananas, back to the table. So that's our zipper attached to one side of our bag. Cool. Now I'm going to lay that so it is the exterior side, right side up in front of me. I'll grab my other exterior piece and place it right sides together. So pretty side to pretty side. And I'll line up the top of that exterior piece with the top of the zipper tape and make sure my sides are nice and lined up and everything's looking nice and neat. And then I'll whack some clips on there. So that's what it will look like. So my sides are lined up, and then I will flip it over, grab my lining piece and place it same way, right sides together. So pretty side to pretty side, so the backing is facing me. Line that edge up with the top of the zipper tape, and then I will just shift those clips along to include that piece as well, like that. So I've got a nice big sandwich. Now, before we take that over to the sewing machine, let's get our connected tabs prepared and take it over at the same time. So I've got my 8" by 3" piece. I'll place that right sides down in front of me so I can see the backing of it. And I'll measure up from that bottom long edge 1.5 inches. Give myself a chalk line. Stitch that, grab my iron, and then lay that right sides down, fold in the long edges to that chalk line and iron that down. Flip him round, other side, up to the middle, and iron it down. So we'll sew this all in one piece and then we'll cut it in two to get our two connected tabs. And then I'll fold it in half again. So all those raw edges are in the middle, like that. Cool. And whack some clips on there. Hold it all in place. And then when we're over there, we'll do this as well. Clips all along that edge. Cool. Okay, let's go get these bits done. I'm going to start with my connected tab because my stitch length is still set at that 4.5 and we are top stitching here, so we want that longer stitch. Going to pop that under the foot at around 1/8 of an inch, so I'm nice and close to that side again. And a little back stitch, and I'm just going to go all the way around. Back stitch at the end. Cool. That's him taken care of. Now we'll do our main panel. So again, I'm about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to shorten my stitch length back down to 3.5, feeling for where that zipper head is so I know where it's at. and just trying to stay nice and consistent all the way down. So the side of my foot is almost up against the zipper teeth. And like I said, I'm feeling with these fingers where the zipper teeth are. And I'm also kind of trying to smooth out that zipper as I go as well, just the tiniest little bit. So I'll get up to the end. I know that zipper head is here. So I'll open up my work, keep my fingers away from the needle, move that head down, make sure my edges are all lined up, and finish off this last bit and a little back stitch there. Cool. Now I'll do the same thing. We'll open it up while we're here and top stitch. So if you need to grab your iron, that's fine. But make sure that you have it open all the way so that your lining isn't up here as well. We want lining and exterior. And then fold the whole thing open. Grab my little presser thing and just give that a bit of a press. You can just use your fingers if you want, or like I said, grab your iron. This just saves me going back and forth a little bit. Okay. Making sure that I have my lining underneath and little back stitch. And again, just lining up the side of my foot with the side of the fabric as I go. Get him out of the way. And I love how that purple thread is showing up against the black and the blues. Looks really pretty. Cool. A little back stitch. Too easy. So that's our pieces all attached to our zipper. Now what I'm going to do is lift up my exterior bits and fold them in right sides together, and then let my lining pieces go right sides together as well. Now I'm going to line up the long bottom edges of that exterior piece and whack some clips along that bottom edge. Just want to make sure everything's sitting nice and neat and even. Cool. Now I'll have it laying in front of me so the lining is closest to me and I can see the back of the lining. And I'm going to measure in 2 inches from each of these bottom corners of the lining and give myself a mark. I'm just using my grid that's in front of me. So 2 inches in from each of the bottom corners and give myself a line. That's going to be my turnout hole. I flip it over and I'm going to do it on this side as well. So it's on both sides, so it doesn't matter what side I've got it up at the sewing machine. I've got no excuses for sewing my turnout hole closed because I do it all the bloody time. Okay, now I can whack some clips along there and just hold that all nice and neat. And then we'll take that over to the sewing machine and we'll sew along those bottom edges, remembering to leave the turnout hole. So I've shortened my stitch length back down to that 3.5. And I'm going to start on my exterior piece, and I'm around 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I just want to stay nice and consistent all the way down. So I'm going to use a magnet because I've been a bit wobbly lately, I reckon, with my edges. So I want to give myself the best chance of getting that nice and neat. Now, if you've got lines, if you're on a domestic machine and you've got those lines on the edge of your needle plate, make sure you use them. They really are a handy thing to have. Cool. And then the lining side, remembering to leave that turnout hole. So same thing, 3/8. Want to give ourselves enough room to sew that up later. back stitch well there, because we'll be pulling our bag out through there. So we want to make sure we back stitch really well. And then this side as well. And back stitch. Cool. So there's my bottom sewn down. Now I'm just going to press open these seams, these bottom seams that we just sewed. So I'll grab that bottom bit, that exterior, and just press that seam open, give it a hit with the iron. And then same thing with the lining. I'll have that in front of me and I'll just fold up one side, give that a hit. Now this bit is important because we need our seams sitting nicely. Flip him over and flip up that side too. Okay, looking good. I'll just ditch this iron. Cool. Now, before we do the next part, I'm going to grab my connector, and I've already just cut that in half, and my clips. So I'm going to open it up a little bit on my exterior bit. So on the exterior side, I'm going to just press it open, grab one of my connectors, fold it in half, and place it. So I'll show you closer, don't worry. So the raw edges are lined up with the edge of the fabric and zipper tape. And I haven't trimmed down my zipper tape yet. I'll do that after I've sewn the sides on the next bit and whack some clips on there. So the long bit is hanging down over the zipper tape. It's not sticking up this way. It's down over the work like that. And then I'll whack the other one on the other end. So fold him in half, pop him in, move that zipper head out of the way so that those raw edges are lined up on the edge of the zipper tape like that, and whack some clips on to hold him in place. Now my zipper is open down that end because I want that zipper head out of the way. So we're going to have to be mindful to sort of squish that tape in and hold it together when we sew in a minute. But for now, I just want that connector on there. Cool. Now I'm going to open up this exterior bit and then lay it flat so that that seam is on top of my zipper tape. So that seam will now lay on top of this connectors and that zipper tape. And then I'll just shift everything around a little bit neater. Whack some clips on there. So I've got a nice little sandwich of my zipper tape, my connector, and then that folded over exterior bit. Flip it round, squash it flat, lay that seam down on top of that zipper tape, and then shift my clips to include that piece. Cool. Flip him over and then do the same thing with the lining piece. So I want the seam of the lining laying on top of that zipper tape. And then shift the clips or whack more clips on if you need to include all that on both sides. So we've got a nice big sandwich. Cool. Now clip some more, whack some more clips on down the side just to hold it all nice and neat. Then we'll take it over to the sewing machine and we're just going to sew down those sides. So if you need to use a hump jump or something like that, or if you need to put a heavier needle in, if you're worried about your machine or your needle to get over those layers of the zipper tape and connectors, then go ahead and do that. And just take your time and get yourself set up so that your needle doesn't break and your thread doesn't break and you don't drive yourself mad. Okay, so it'll all look like that. So let's go sew down these sides. So I've changed over to a wider foot for this part, and I want about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So we make sure that we're grabbing everything, feeling for where that zipper head is, and my stitch length is around 3.5. And back stitch there. Now, like I said, if you need a hump jump for this bit, then go ahead and grab one. Actually, don't know where mine is. If you don't have a hump jump, you can fold up a little bit of fabric or some cardboard and pop it over underneath your foot. There we go. She handled it. Just shift that fabric, make sure everything's laying flat as you go. And a little back stitch. Even though we're going to cut those corners off, still good habit, and we don't want it unraveling as we go. Okay, and then other side. So make sure everything's smooth, laying flat. Pop that under. And off we go. You want to make sure that your seam allowance is wide enough so that you are going over your connectors. Cool. Now we're going to prepare these corners to box them. Now, when we do this, we want to make sure that we are measuring from our stitch line, not the edge of the fabric. So I'm going to measure up 1.5 inches along the stitches, and then 1.5 across and 1.5 down. If I start from the edge, I'll end up wonky. So I'm going to get my ruler, and I'm going to place that 1.5 inch line along my stitches, scoot it down until I'm 1.5 inches along the bottom as well, and then draw in that box like that. And I'll do that on all 4 corners. Cool. Now I'll get my sharp scissors and I'll cut these corners out. So I'm going to cut across my stitches as well. So cut the whole corner out. So this is just such a much easier way of doing it than trying to cut out your fabric from a pattern. Just doing it like this just makes life a little bit easier. Cool. So that's what we should look like at this stage. Now I'll grab my not so good scissors and trim down that zipper tape. I can get rid of all that now. Don't use your good fabric scissors for that bit, because it will ruin them. Cool. Now we'll clip up the corners to box them. So now we're going to box the corners. Now what I'm going to do is clip up one corner here and show you how to do it, and then take it over to the machine and sew it down. We're going to do them one at a time. And then the other ones I will clip exactly the same at the sewing machine and then do them one at a time. I just think that's going to be easier, because if we clip all 4, because it does end up in a big messy ball, as we're sewing, the other ones are going to come undone. So if we sew them down one at a time, then it'll just look better in the end. So what I'm going to do is pull my lining away from one of my exterior corners, pop my fingers in that exterior corner and pull it open. So it is now laying flat. And I'm going to try and get the same amount on either side so that this seam is the middle, and I want it nice and even all the way across. Pull that lining down out of the way and get some clips on there. Now really take your time with this bit because it can be a bit tricky and a little bit sort of everything looks messy. And then the trick is to really fold down these side bits as well so everything sits flat, and whack a clip on there. Then I'll look at the lining on that same corner. So pull my lining, let's get it out of that clip there, pull my lining open and then fold it over so that it lines up with the exterior corner. So see what I mean? It can be really quite tricky and messy. We sort of have to fold over that whole side seam there. And then whack those clips on to include that. Clip right up to that corner. And then do this side. And include those bits. Like that. So it does end up looking a little bit messy and can be a little bit confusing. So if you need to watch that bit over a few times, then do so. But we'll take that one over and we'll sew that corner first. And then, like I said, at the machine, we'll fold over the next one and the next one and the next one. Okay, so my stitch length is around 3.5. My seam allowance is 3/8. Now with this bit, because it is tricky, don't be tempted to get your fingers anywhere near that needle. Use a stiletto of some kind. So back stitch across, making sure that zipper head isn't anywhere near my corners. And across. Okay, now I'll check on the other side and make sure that I caught both sides all the way across. Okay, next one. So let's start up here. So same thing, I'm going to stick my fingers in the corners of that pocket. So there's my seam. Lay it flat across that seam. And I'll clip that exterior bit first. I'm not worrying about my lining yet. Pull that right out of the way. I'll whack a clip down along that side there too, just to hold that piece flat. I might do it on that side too. To hold that side flat, and that'll help my corner lay a little bit flatter. Then flip him over and look at the lining. So stick my fingers in the corners, open it up, and then lay it on top of that exterior bit and shift my clips to include it. Leave that one just to include that side bit. Okay, I think I'm happy with that bit. So the more you take your time on this, the easier it is. If you try and rush, then you'll end up in tears. Okay. Cut that. Make sure I caught both sides. Cool. Now, where's the next one? Open that one up. Exterior bit first. Open it up so my seam is in the middle. Whack some clips on there. And then 1 or 2 just down that side just to hold it flat. I just find that really helps. Okay, flip him over and the lining. So stick my fingers in the corners, open it up, and then lay it flat against that exterior bit. You just have to be a little bit, not rough, but you know, show it who's boss. Okay, and then just shift those clips to include that bit. Cool. Okay, third one. And back stitch. Okay, check to make sure you caught both sides. All right, where's the last one? There he is. Okay, so fingers in the sides, pull it open, lay it flat against that seam. Whack some clips on there. Whack a couple of clips down the side to hold it flat. Okay, and then the lining. Stick my fingers in there, open him up. Okay. See what I mean? Like if we'd clipped all this at once and tried to bring it over and sew it, it would have been difficult. Pop that under. 3/8. Okay, now we can go turn it out and see how we went. Just make sure you find all the clips and get them off. Okay, so there it is, and it looks a little bit like a dog's breakfast right now, but we'll turn it out and have a little look. So stick my hand up through that turnout hole and just start working it out. Sorry, it's cuddle time. And we'll just start working that out. See how we went. Oh, looks good. Yeah, that looks good. So we really want to make sure that we take our time when we're prepping our corners, and our tabs look good. Now we do need to take care of that turnout hole in a minute, but that's looking lovely. It's a good shape. Okay, pull this bit back out for our turnout hole. Now I'll whack some clips on there and take that over to the sewing machine, pull that exterior back out, and just go and close that turnout hole. Now, because I've used orange, I will swap out my thread to our orange one so it looks nice and neat. Won't we? Where are you going to go while I do this? Huh? Somewhere else. Let's go do that. Okay, I've got my thread changed out finally. Not easy to do with the curious cat who wants to take off with the thread all the time, but we got it done. So I want to be around 1/8 of an inch away from that edge, and I'm starting a little bit further back than what I think I need to close up the hole so I don't have any gaps. again, just a little bit further than what I think I need to. Too easy. So there we go. I've closed that turnout hole and I've given it a bit of a hit with the iron, and I'm just loving how that came out. Very, very cute. Cool. Now, if you enjoyed that, as usual, please give me a like and subscribe. I've got a heap more bag content and just sewing stuff in general on my page. And otherwise, I hope you have a fabulous day. And remember, it's only fabric. We can always buy more. See ya. Bugger.